Hello, this is Doug Pancian from dougpan.com. Somebody on LinkedIn asked if they could create a custom keyboard, and the answer that came back was no. Well, there are ways of doing it. There are some caveats, of course, probably a lot of work, but it can be done. Back in 2008, when I wrote my very first iPhone application, it required a custom keyboard. So I'll show basically how it works. I will run this, and then what we'll do is I'll show you how I built it. It's not complete. I just added a few keys, taking a snapshot of the image of the keyboard off an iPhone simulator, but here it goes. And I overlaid some other keys on top of it. So this is the keyboard that's underlying. Of course, it's just an image, but we make it simulate a pop-up, and I can type in D-O-U-G-P-A-N. See these P-A-N I do not have activated yet, but you could go to the trouble of getting all these keys to work, and then you could use it. I'll show you how it's done. So we'll start up Xcode. We'll go File, New Project. And we'll choose a single view application, and we'll call this Custom Keyboard. And we'll create that, and immediately we'll go into the storyboard, and what we want to do is capture an image of the pop-up keyboard that's provided with iOS. So we're going to add a text field, and we're going to immediately run this so that we can copy, screen capture that is, the keyboard that Apple provides. So we're going to immediately run this, and we're going to use the Command Shift 4 in order to capture the image of the keyboard. And we're not going to be really fussy at this point because we're just going to use it to line up our keys, and then we can delete it after we're fully complete our application. So here's the simulator. We're going to capture this. Here goes the Command Shift 4 that lets me move the mouse over top of the keyboard and just get a quick capture that we're going to throw into an image view. And we will just quit this. We'll minimize this. We'll call this keyboard, and we're going to drag this into our Xcode project as a resource. So I'm just going to drag this into my supporting files, and I'll make sure that's checked off as copy. And so now that's a keyboard, PNG, in there. And what I'm going to do is add to the storyboard an image view. Where I can place that keyboard into it. And so I'm just going to select image, choose keyboard, and it might be a little stretched right now because if I stretch this out, you'll see it'll be not proportionate. What we want to do is just have this work as an aspect fill. So now it's to size, and we just want to make sure that these edges are exactly or close to the size of the image view, because we don't want this shifting around on us when the application actually starts to run. And so that's all we're going to do with this. Later on, we'll delete this. I won't do that because I'm only adding a few keys to prove that this can be done. Now what we'll do is we'll add a few buttons and lay them over top of this image, and we'll call this D, capital D, and we'll make it so that it's just close enough. Of course, you can make these, you can have images in behind these to make them look nicer, but this is just to demo what can be done. I copied and pasted. This will make an O. You can see where I'm going with this. U. Copy and paste, and G. And I won't do the rest of them. This will be good enough to demonstrate. The next thing that I'd like to do is demonstrate when this application starts and when we click into the text field, the default iOS keyboard will pop up. And we want to immediately dismiss that. So let's do that next. Let's run this application. And although there's our fake keyboard here that's just an image with some of our buttons over top of it, when we click on here, it pops up the real iOS keyboard. Well, we don't want that happening, so we're going to get rid of that. So I'll just quit this, and we'll create an action for this. And we'll just go into the assistant editor, and we'll control drag and create an action for this field, and call this dismiss keyboard. And when the event that we want to do that on is editing did begin. We don't want to use our touch up inside or anything like that. We want editing did begin. And we'll connect that to our storyboard. And let's just widen this out again for some more screen real estate. And the next thing that we're going to do is to also add an outlet for my text here. And we're going to synthesize this inside of our implementation. So we're going to jump over to our .m file, and just underneath implementation we'll go at synthesize and put in my text. So now down here in the IB action for dismiss keyboard, we can throw an instruction here and say my text field resign first responder. And that won't allow the keyboard to stay up on the screen. So let's just try this out and see if that works. Build succeeded. Click on the field, and you'll note that the keyboard does not pop up, but we have ours. But nothing works yet for these keys. So that's what we'll do next. So we'll quit the simulator, and now what we'll do is we'll control drag and create action items for each of the keys. And we'll call this key D. Another action item for O. Make sure you choose action. Key O. Action for key U. And one more for key G. And finally, we want to append, whenever we hit a D, we want to update this text field and append to what we've clicked on. So this should give you enough idea that it can be done. So for key D, we've synthesized my text field, so we're going to go my text.text is equal to my text.text, and to put in string by appending string. And the string we're going to add, of course, is D. And we're going to copy this and do the same thing for O, U, and G. So here's D, O, so we've got D, we've got O, we've got U, and we've got G. Let's build and run this. and see if we have a custom keyboard. D-O-U-G. Now another thing you may want to do is to add another view over top of the keyboard, or you can lay the keyboard on top of a view, because you can have views over top of views, and it works quite nicely. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to hide the keyboard with this view, and we're going to add an outlet for this. So we'll pull up our interface, control drag, create an outlet for this, and we're going to call this hide keyboard, and we're going to connect that. And remember too that you can lay things onto this view. You can put the keyboard on it for that matter, and you can have it simulate some animation, or you can have other buttons on it, and even have buttons behind it. So you might have even a little bit more control of where the keyboard ends up. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our hide keyboard. We need to synthesize it first. Hide keyboard. And in our dismiss keyboard, we'll just set hidden. Hide keyboard, set hidden to yes. We'll build and run, so that when we go to click on the field, it pops away, so that it can reveal our keyboard. And there we have our custom keyboard. And of course we can complete it with all sorts of other things and make it do pretty much anything that we want to. And there you go.